What do you think is the biggest misconception about the HR function?
There are many, I feel, but one of the most glaring ones which I feel is that HR has been historically been known as a hire and fire function, and somebody who does just the routine, mundane payroll or life cycle management activities. This, I believe, is the biggest misconception.
Would you like to bet your money, on someone who is coming with a pedigree, like for example, IIT and IIMs, or someone with a skill set?
If it's a binary answer, I would say skills for sure today. That will take you far because it speaks about the agility.
What are those three skills today which were not even present, maybe 10 years back or probably 15 years back?
And the usage of data and analytics is one element which wasn't in very prime focus earlier on, specifically within the HR fraternity.
What makes an employee truly loyal to an organization?
It's the promise. When you get hired,
Hello and welcome to the People Engine podcast. For today's conversation, I'm very glad to welcome Gaurav Chopra. Gaurav is an in-seat alumni with a dual master's degree in human resources and corporate law. Gaurav brings 19 plus years of experience in the global HR leadership space, cutting across different boundaries like India, UAE, Egypt, and Asia Pacific. His work with the top multinationals has been centered around driving HR transformation, building vibrant cultures, and shaping future ready teams. Certified in people analytics from the University of Cambridge and AI application from the Northwestern Kellogg. He's not just a HR leader, he's also recognized by the President's Award from the Honorable ex President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam and featured by the National Geographic magazine for wildlife photography. Gaurav is a blend of analytics, rigor, and creative passion. Gaurav, I welcome you on the People Engine podcast. So, Gaurav, I'm looking forward for this conversation with you. With the kind of rich and extensive experience that you hold in the HR function, there's so much to learn personally for me, and I'm sure even for the viewers. For them also, it's important to understand HR function more closely and more deeply. So, I'm looking forward for a very valuable insights from you. The very first thing that I really want to ask you is that, what do you think is the biggest misconception about the HR function?
well, thanks. There are many, I feel, but one of the most glaring ones which I feel is that HR has been historically been known as a hire and fire function, and somebody who does just the routine, mundane payroll or life cycle management activities. But I believe it is this, I believe, is the biggest misconception. But what HR is predominantly for a lot of organizations today in maturing firms is on being the custodians of culture, architects of future leaders or building talent, and there's an entire people science behind that, backed research that goes in the HR interventions that go in organizations today, and that's how we're looking at the function going forward. So this, I believe, is a big misconception which needs to be addressed, and I think we've got to do it together.
Okay, that's good enough. So you're saying that, when it comes to HR function, it is as important and as integral like any other function of the organization? Because it touches every aspect of the business and the organizations.
No, absolutely. I think you've said it. It is one of the most crucial functions, and because it does deal with the talent profile of people. It does deal with the kind of people you bring in, and you're making no mistakes there. And the other element which nobody largely emphasizes about HR is the nuance it brings in from a not just from a talent point of view, but also linking the business priorities, business strategies, etc. with the talent that it brings on. So bringing on talent is nothing but a marketing element, but for them to thrive, for them to grow, for them to sort of become future leaders of the organization has a overarching impact by human resources in general. But this is where HR gets their seat on the table.
That's good to know. That's good to know. And I know that, you have been HR for so many years in this function. You have got tons of experience with you. So would you like to bet your money, on someone who is coming with a pedigree, like for example, IIT and IIMs, or someone with a skill set? I'm talking about something related to the hiring of the HR function.
Oh, I think this is a very controversial question as well, I'm sure. So, but I would if it's a binary answer, I would say skills for sure today. That will take you far, because it speaks about the agility, and you constantly sort of navigating your ways and finding out avenues as to where you can be more relevant within the organization and otherwise in the industry, also for your individual careers. But having said that, we cannot undermine the element of pedigree, so to speak. It does give you a foot in the door. I mean, when you're from an IM or an IT, like you mentioned, it does give you an edge over others, and it's a great launch pad, and it's a filtered cohort of people who can actually make a big difference, and they're doing well. But at the end of the day, what remains and what takes you ahead is really your skills and the curiosity to to change or pivot your careers and your learning over a period of time. So skills is where I think I'd put my money in.
Well, that's great to know. Good to know. Such a clear answer. So
Thank
you started with binary,
Ha.
but you concluded it really well.
Thank you.
So Gaurav, if you talk about the definition of the successful HR leadership, how has that changed? How has it changed over the last decade or so? Because you have been a spectator and you are the person who's already there in the game. So how have you seen this change happening?
Yeah, I mean, so I think largely we were focused on, like I said, a lot of employee life cycle elements, or things which are fairly tactical in an organization or administrative that HR did. But today it has genuinely evolved from a standpoint of they are coming in with business acumen on the table, and you will see a lot of HR leaders taking on C-suite roles as running organizations and finding the space on the board of many HR tech organizations, and so on and so forth. So understanding the business nuance with very intimate detail is one element. The second aspect is being very curious and with a very heavy reliance on data. Data orientation and working with complex data sets, taking insights, predicting outcomes, etc. is another element which is very crucial. And obviously the change of the environment that we now see around us in the workspace is AI, and wearing the hat of let's just say like a product person. How do you look at implementing AI in solving problems, in augmenting existing processes, people, organization designs, etc. So it's something we need to focus on to be the future leaders or finding your space at the C-suite. So these, I think, would be the broad three aspects which I feel any budding HR person or any professional would should look at.
Okay. So if as you answered about successful leader in HR that we are talking about, so should I assume that the job is much tougher today as it was maybe 10 years back or 15 years back? As you spoke about data, you spoke about the changing generations which are coming in, those kind of things, so it's much tougher, I believe.
Yeah, it is. So it is, I mean, let's face it. I mean, let's just taking an example of like AI, right? I mean, so when we see it is being introduced in curriculums in schools and colleges, it got introduced to you and me and to a 20-year-old at the same time. So our uptake on the topic has to be exactly the same. So we're all learning at the same time. So you would see multi-generational workforce, multi-generational people at all ages, wanting to sort of adapt this piece. And the learning agility differs with age. This is my personal assumption. But as long as you are able to, cut through the noise and figure out, what the sweet spot is in this changing environment, specifically around the AI piece or anything else for that matter, is what would differentiate you. So, I would say not to be very clouded in the way we think, but at the same time very focused on your learning agility in this specific journey as a professional for anybody for that matter.
Right. So Gaurav, I'm just thinking about it, that when it comes to AI, as we are talking about it, and we know that, it has been introduced to everyone across the ages at the same time.
Yeah.
In your organization, what do you see? A 40-year-old, 50-year-old person versus someone who's just a fresher, like 20, 22-year-old, who's adapting it faster?
Right. No, so I think all the places that I've worked, it is the adoption is universally spread out. The adaptability quotient is what the culture of the organization is. I mean, AI is just one element of it, but at the same time, if it is if it is something that we need to focus our energies on, everybody is doing it with the same set of passion. In some places, you would, wherever you think that there is an element of struggle, we borrow, and we get support from other functions where they have genuinely, let's just say, cracked the code. But it's a fairly collaborative process. But to answer your question, the adoption of AI overall has been fairly universal, and the passion at which it is being taken on is also phenomenal. And I've seen that in all the firms that I've worked with, and whether it is AI or some other element which is being introduced, then it is being adopted fairly well.
That's good to know. Gaurav, इतने साल हो गए आपको काम करते हुए. You must have hired and dealt with best of the leaders across the organizations at various levels. Leadership पे भी किया होगा, middle management के साथ भी काम किया होगा, even with a fresher. So, what do you think? What are those 3 skills today which were not even present? Maybe 10 years back or probably 15 years back. Though with technology, we all know, it's something which is there today. So it couldn't be 10, 15 years back. But those 3 skills, key skills that you see, maybe in terms of dealing with people, in terms of other things also, which could be anything, which were not present 10 years back. Those top 2-3 skills.
No, absolutely. So, data literacy and the usage of data and analytics is one element which wasn't in very prime focus earlier on, specifically within the HR fraternity. The second one would be design thinking. I would see a lot of changes happening in the organization. So you've got to wear the hat where we are able to sort of design processes, thinking from a point of view of how can you turn it around if a business priority changes over a period of time, or suddenly change the course, because it's a very fluid state, in many ways. The businesses are fluid, the environment is fluid. So how can you pivot? So design thinking is another element of it, and empathy. I feel is needed, and it is very crucial. Good old empathy is very important today. We see that with the speed that we are working with, that element is lost. So nobody talks about the behavioral elements anymore so much, but I feel it's very, very crucial for a person to continue having.
Well said. Well said. So Gaurav, in your journey, you must have dealt with a lot of leaders. Not only leaders, but across the organization structure. Leaders also, middle management also, and freshers also, for example. What are those 3 skill sets that exist today that wasn't the case maybe 10 years back?
No, sure. I think data intimacy, data literacy, and usage of data for a lot of decision making today is very crucial. And I think the adoption of this element is fairly high, and I think this should continue. It wasn't the case earlier on as a function evolved. The second aspect I feel is design thinking, because that's where you are able to pivot very quickly from a straightforward way of working to suddenly, if there is a change of environment or a business priority or a certain objective, you're able to sort of quickly pivot towards that. And at the same time, wearing a product manager hat, if I may, you are able to think holistically about a solution and how would it impact an employee or your stakeholder, so on and so forth, or a process for that matter. And the third element, which I would not say something new, but something to remind ourselves on, is that we should continue to be human. There's an element of empathy that should be there in the pace that we sort of work with across. The quotient around empathy is very crucial in anything that we do with our colleagues, subordinates, with our bosses, stakeholders, customers, whoever.
So you're talking about the larger context of things.
Yes.
Not only the insider of an organization, but in terms of you're dealing with even the external side of the business, it should be there.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So Gaurav, I think it's well said, if you talk about data literacy and empathy, I think both are utmost essential for any business. But I'm sure that, if you talk about these 2 things, has it anything to do with the size of the organization that we see today? Because now what we see are mammoths, as compared to what 10 years back it was. Data was not even a herd, it was unheard of understanding. So today it has to deal with the sizes also, because organizations are fairly big. पहले हमने कहाँ देखी इतनी बड़ी organizations?
Correct.
Empathy takes time, I personally believe, in terms of reaching every hook and corner of any organization. With smaller organization, it reaches faster. With bigger organization, maybe it takes time.
Yes.
Great. When it comes to sustaining a bigger organization, or even any organization for that matter, what is the bigger asset? Is it people or is it process centricity, which is important?
Well, I feel both.
Okay.
People certainly are the most crucial elements in an organization. They clearly decide the future of an organization. However, from a standpoint of how they perform in the company has got an ecosystem effect. So HR and the rest of the key stakeholders in an organization play a big role around that. So talent, absolutely yes, it's a very crucial important. What complements this endeavor is the process, because process helps bring some level of discipline and a structure in how such a diverse talent set across the whole overall ecosystem, like you mentioned, continues to perform. So process helps cut through the chaos, but talent is what eventually thrives. So it works collectively in harmony, and I think both are important.
Okay. So when it comes to processes, I think I'm sure that you again said it right, that talent is important, but so is process. So are we if we talk about today's organization, are they building those processes to bypass talent, or probably the churn of the talent that we see today? Because there's a lot of churning which is happening. So process also controls those kind of churnings
Absolutely.
and actually absorbs the effects that it happens with.
It does. So it takes out discretion from out of the system. It is good to have a discipline of an organization working in a certain manner. So it does help us not just in managing churn. It also helps us in managing certain predictive elements which could impact the organization adversely.
Business continuity.
Absolutely,
Okay.
business continuity being very crucial.
Right.
So you said it. So this is exactly what this specific aspect of having a process in place, which is obviously heavily backed up with data and insights, helps for an organization.
Got it. Got it. Again, culture is such a buzzword today. I would like to know more about it. When it comes to culture, it's a top-down approach which works, or it should be a ground-up approach. What actually works better?
Yeah, so I think I'll probably say it in a slightly different manner. So I think if you work in an organization, and if you've been a good leader, oblique boss or a manager, irrespective of your career stage, you would not be remembered by what you said. You would always be remembered by how you made somebody feel, because that touches an element of behavior, and that is very ritualistic. So if I am a leader, or if in an organization, any leader should typically portray the qualities that they expect the organization to eventually follow or imbibe. So it has to be ritualistic. So it needs to be top down to a larger extent. Yes, I mean, what needs eventual control is that HR or employees in general should be monitored. There should be constant nudges to ensure that specific culture is getting percolated down and being followed.
Right.
So 100% it has to be top down, but with a constant check-in that it is being followed.
Got it. And culture is subject to change or not? With the changing leadership, is it subject to change or not?
It is.
It is.
Okay. I don't think there is any, we can take any example for that matter. Any organization that you see, even if you're looking at it from a 50,000 feet level or in a different organization or a country, I'll obviously not cite names of organizations there because it sometimes gets political.
Please don't do that.
So, but you'll see with the change of culture, you'll certainly see people changing or organizations, roles changing. Sometimes with just a regulation change,
Right.
it genuinely impacts the overall culture of the company.
Just thinking about the culture, I just saw this on one of the reels, which is important to mention here because it's not a opposite thing that I'm talking about. I heard Ashneer Grover talking once.
Right.
That ये culture vulture ना सब बेकार की चीज़
Uh-huh.
and that's what he said. And I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but I personally think I just would like to have a little view from you that
Right.
was he partially right or was he 100% right? How was it?
Right. So Ashneer Grover ने जो चीज़ बोली थी, he's also said something else around the same line, is that which I completely understand and resonate with. Well, when you walk into a organization and when you see a lot of people talking, fighting, लड़ रहे हैं, बहस हो रही है, बोलो वहाँ पे काम हो रहा है. तो वहाँ पे they are building something, they are ideating something, and then sometimes you walk into organizations where बिल्कुल there's drop dead silence. People are working in their cubicles and working. Well, where is the creativity? Where is the build there? So when Ashneer said that, I think he also mentioned in one of the interviews, I don't know if it's the same one, that जहाँ पे लोग लड़ रहे होते हैं ना, वो culture is the culture where you are genuinely building something for the future. So, but yeah, so
Debatable.
है ना, debatable है.
Debatable. Because, at one corner, we are talking about the right processes.
Right.
And then the other corner, we are talking about fighting.
Correct.
So I think when people are silent, I think process is on the go.
Yeah.
There could be diverse views. That's my view.
Absolutely. There are diverse views, and how do you clutter? How do you declutter the noise? Is, I think, where folks like you and I come in. Not as a policeman or like a warden, but more like more like a distant watcher, an observer.
Gaurav, what makes an employee truly loyal to an organization? It's a very difficult answer, I'm sure about this, but I'll make it easier for you. Is it salary and growth which makes the person loyal, or is it actually empathy and respect which the person gets?
That's a great question. And I feel it's the promise.
Okay.
So when you get hired, obviously being from a talent industry yourself, you would know there is a certain promise that a candidate gets when the person is joining the organization, and when that promise is about the future. So career opportunities, yes. So providing an opportunity alone is not the only factor. What happens is that how invested is the organization in making sure that they are working with you in building your careers as well. So investment in individual development is a very crucial element. That doesn't mean that staying in an organization for many years is wrong. But at the same time, investment in an individual is a very important factor. So that is I think one single aspect which I feel is crucial for talent to thrive in a company. Money is important, but money is not. If I were to sort of stack rank it, I would probably put that easily at level 3 or level 4.
Okay.
And giving career opportunities, making sure that the environment is healthy for you to speak, freedom of speech, let's just say, in an organization. Are they open to innovation? Things like that. Recognition in various forums, non-monetary most likely. And then salary follows. So some of the largest organizations database you would see that are predominantly paying at P50 levels,
right,
at median levels, and sometimes they are paying even lower. But with very minimal churn rates.
Right.
And that talks about, I think they're probably ticking the first 3 boxes. Well.
The only example that I could think of, not the only, but I'm sure there would be many, but the only example that I could think of is a company called GE and Genpact. I know the standards there. I know I've known those salary ranges also. They don't pay anything which is extraordinary.
Right.
But look at the loyalty that they command. And I can assure you this. There's something right that they're doing on the other factors that you spoke about, but not on the money part. Right. So that's a good one. We are talking about employees, we are talking about retaining people. What do you think actually constitutes the sticky culture? When I say sticky, I'm talking about the positive side of stickiness. Right. So what actually constitutes the sticky culture for any employee? It's a mix of all the things that you spoke about.
Yeah.
There's something else which can be added.
No, I feel predominantly this. And stickiness also comes from belongingness. Am I actually part of creating this organization in some aspect? So that is very crucial. So if there is an opportunity for me to believe that I am able to genuinely build this organization in some manner or make a difference, is something that makes you a little bit entrepreneurial in your thought process. Being in the persona of a typical salaried employee, that feeling I would say is phenomenal if an organization is able to deliver on. But it's not just an organization's job. It is both the employee. They both have to walk that path together.
Right. But I think you're talking about the vision transmission thing.
Yeah.
Like culture, it starts from the top. It goes
Yes.
to the bottom. I'll not say bottom, but every hook and corner of the company, for example.
Yes.
So is the vision, I think.
Absolutely.
I think that transmission of vision and mission of the company is very important.
Absolutely, with you, 100%
Yeah.
with you.
Because I think we need to have a common cause to survive.
बिल्कुल no.
Yeah.
यही
Employer, employee both.
यहाँ
That
बहुत
is, yeah.
ज़रूरी है. There's a very
Yeah.
crucial element.
Yeah. So, again, the same question that, if you talk about today's talent war, which is happening since the COVID has started, I've not seen this kind of a talent war that ways. What do you think? Attracting a talent is more crucial and more difficult today versus retaining the talent?
I think we've covered this in
If
so
you have an
many.
answer, because
No, yeah,
huh,
it's again, like I said, you've been asking a lot of controversial. But it's already
it's a
also
common
a
problem.
common problem.
Yeah, it's a common problem.
Talent attraction
Yeah.
is, I would say, relatively easier than retention. Is that when you eventually end up attracting talent, you devote all your forces and your budgets in finding the right candidate with the right pitch. It's like a combination of being marketing the role well, finding and scoping right. But retaining them over a period of time is what defines the organization in so many ways. I mean, investing in the talent for the person to believe that this is the place that they need to invest their expertise and their skill set, and they believe that they can grow and thrive for years to come. And I think retention is where a lot of effort and research should go into, including learning. Is the organization investing in learning? Is the organization making sure that this person can actually move from, let's just say,
Point A to point B.
point A to point B while being there? Can we build talent or shape them in a proprietary context, which will also create stickiness? So if I have a skill set which is very specific to the organization I'm in,
For that particular period.
For that particular period, it makes me not just indispensable, it makes me feel valued from a standpoint that I have acquired those skills. The company has made investments in a specific sort of learning interventions, and that helps me in my in my career growth and in generally what I aspire to become. So that I feel is very crucial. Retention is it's a field in itself.
It's a science in itself.
It's a science in itself.
Yeah, and we are working on it.
Yeah.
Right. So, has it anything to do with the Gen Zs which are coming in? I hate to ask you this because, I myself, I'm working with Gen Zs and I'm loving it. Let me tell you this. I was talking to one of the leaders. I was telling them, earlier what was happening, it was different. Any new employee, any fresher would walk up to the boss and there was an attempt which was visible. And direction was like that only, a new employee to the boss. Today, I think what has to be done is it has to reverse. Bosses have to really come up to that level and drive themselves toward the new employees. I think that is where the change is. And once you bridge that gap, I think Gen Zs are there for you. This is what I personally believe.
No, I agree with you. I mean, like 100%. So I think there's a lot of reverse learning which is happening.
Yes.
And I mean, right from our households to work and otherwise, then when we sort of go out for to a mall or to any place, I mean, you interact with a certain generation type, and the first thing that instantly strikes you is their approach, approach to work and approach to communication. They are very direct. I don't think they require, and they're internally motivated.
Right.
They require very crisp conversations. They don't fit in a hierarchical mindset.
Right.
So that's the best part. The communication flow is fairly quick, and the agility to react and the agility to sort of take action with them is phenomenal. And what you see is what you get in a way. So which is really a fresh perspective to dealing with this specific generation, and this generation dealing with us at the same time. And I feel it's a big change, obviously, as we are going through. For them, it is not easy either. I don't think we are making it easy for them as well in general, but it's a learning curve.
So I think whatever you said makes real sense. I think it's just an attitude change which has to come. Like a culture comes from top, this attitude change should also come from the top. This is what I personally believe. But Gaurav, our organization, वो genuinely वो काम कर रहे हैं जो आप बोल रहे हो, वो I'm sure there is an understanding in the market. For example, you talk about the hierarchy of the companies, right?
Right.
Are they working towards making it more flatter or not?
They are. See, in my little experience, and the folks and and some of the organizations that I have in general interacted with, even if I have not worked with, if I were to really bucket them, so startups are very agile in that aspect. I would say, a lot of new age startups who are sort of getting there, they are very agile, and this is, I think, has already been established because culturally वो बने ही ऐसे हैं. But you're right. In general, when you look at some of the old age organizations, I would not say founder led, but I would say legacy or a family owned businesses, there is an element of hierarchy that comes in. There is an element of authority that comes in, and a very directive way of working that sort of comes in, which doesn't sort of stick with them. And you would see the population set there also eventually fizzles out.
Right.
And फ्यूचर में फिर उनका सर्वाइव करने के लिए दे विल इवेंचुअली हैव टू पिवट सो बेटर डू इट नाउ देन later.
Pivot is such a strong word today.
हाँ.
It's not only a technical pivot you're talking about, you're talking about the cultural pivot and organizational pivot, right? I still remember there was a conversation which Mr. Mukesh Ambani spoke about, and this conversation was that he was very, very happy and happily surprised that way, that, in his organization, I think he was talking about Reliance Jio,
right,
that the average age of an employee has dropped down to 24, 25. So having said that, I'm sure that he must be thinking about other things also, that how to make them work and retain them and probably progress them within the organization. But companies like Reliance, they're consciously understanding this phenomena that companies are getting younger, like 24, 25. It's too young an organization that way. Wherein 70% of the workforce, 80% of the workforce is 23, 24. And there's a lot to be done for them, even in the organization. Our world is all about conflicts management, right? HR, I think that's a core job and core function of a human resource team. How do you manage the conflict which erupts every day in front of us between the employees and the leaders, and we are completely sandwiched between them.
Right. So yeah, it's a sandwich, and it's also sort of it's also like a bridge. Yeah. So employee priorities and business priorities sometimes don't sort of converge. Right. They are on a different, on different paths or different altitudes altogether. So getting that right marriage, so to speak, to happen, there is a big consultative role that HR brings on on the ground for employees to understand what the business priorities are and get them ready for those challenges. And similarly align businesses where I think it is not aligning well with where our talent pool is, or where we are sort of headed from an employee standpoint. So I think getting that together is the role of, and not just of an HR person, but a lot of other people in the play. But orchestrating that conversation and priorities has to be done by a neutral third party, which can only be a central team like a human resources function and with the leadership. So this is where I would say your other elements that you discussed today around culture and making sure that the priorities are aligned is very crucial. So this is where I think we all come in.
Great. But when it comes to conflict management, do we go to the leaders and say, yaar, galti hai, aapki bhi hai, isko thoda sa manage aap bhi karo? Do we do that?
Yeah.
Or it's only the employees who are freshers or graduates, we just try to convince them and make them fall in line?
Well, yes and no.
The People Engine podcast is our effort to bring forth conversations from the perspective of human resources, because we truly believe it's the people who make the businesses. Follow us for more interesting stories.